Welcome to the Ignite podcast, where we dive into what it really means to lead, learn, and grow in today's evolving world. Whether you're tuning in as a leader, a learner, or just someone looking to grow personally and professionally, you're in the right place. I'm Ben Edwards, Chief Learning Officer here at Ignite Training and lead designer of one of our long term learning pathways, LEAP. Today, I'm joined by my colleague Emma, who's Head of Learning and Insight. She's someone who's not just shaping how we deliver our programs, but who brings years of research and behavioral insight into our conversation.
Hi, then. Thanks. It's really great to be here. Honestly, I've been really looking forward to this one.
Absolutely. And it feels particularly relevant now because we're recording this just ahead of Emirati Women's Day, which is on the 28th of August. So it made sense for us to dive into a topic that's close to our hearts and very much aligned with what we're seeing in LEAP. Today's episode is about how the generation of Emirati women are reshaping what it means to lead, especially under pressure.
Yeah, Ben, I think it's important to say it's not just about marking a date on the calendar. Emirati Women's Day is about visibility. It's about recognizing influence and impact in places that often get overlooked. And what we've seen, especially in the last few cohorts of LEAP, is that Emirati women are not just entering the leadership space, they're transforming it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've been seeing too. Like in feedback from senior stakeholders, participants, in post program reports, and even in internal promotion data. It's not just an observation. It's showing up in measurable impact. It's one of the most impressive shifts we've witnessed in a decade of delivering leadership development. For anyone new to it, Leap is not your typical leadership program. It's a high intensity and high support, meaning that participants are pushed outside of their comfort zones, but in a really structured and thoughtful way.
And that structure really is key. It's not just about throwing people in the deep end, it's about helping them understand how to swim before the waves hit.
Exactly. And they're not being overwhelmed. They're being trained to self correct under stress. And there's a real science behind how we build capability under pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
An example that we use in LEAP is the personal pressure mapping exercise. Participants are guided on how to reflect on high stakes situations that they're currently facing. Then they break it down into what's in their control and simply what isn't. It is simple, but it's incredibly revealing. Like we've had participants tell us that it's completely changed how they approach conflict or their overloaded schedules because suddenly they're not just reacting emotionally. What they're doing is they're responding much more strategically. It's a controlled way of building that agility without the high stakes of real world fallout. It's built around real pressure, not hypothetical case studies. So it combines with that space for reflection.
Yeah, and I think that's where the learning really embeds when it's not just theoretical, but when it's grounded in real tension and there's emotional decision making involved.
You know, Emma, what I think is even more powerful is that LEAP was designed specifically for young Emirati talent, and more than half of our participants so far have been women, and they've absolutely shaped the program into what it is today. And it's not just that they're passive participants, right? Like many of them are among the most consistent, strategic, and emotionally intelligent voices in that room. What's interesting to me is how they manage pressure without letting it leak into the team dynamics.
Yeah, and that ability to hold space while still getting things done. Honestly, I think that's the kind of leadership that we don't talk about enough, but it's exactly what works under pressure. It's not magic, it's process and it's not accidental. That's intelligent design.
Yeah, exactly. These aren't women trying to replicate a traditional model of success. They're bringing something entirely new. It's something that's rooted in cultural intelligence, family systems thinking, and long term orientation. It's kind of leadership that holds space rather than takes space.
That's a really lovely way of putting it. But I just want to challenge that slightly. Do you think we sometimes maybe over celebrate that quiet presence without asking if people around the managers, for example, and teams actually notice or even value it?
Well, like, presence is powerful, but influence still needs to be seen.
Exactly. And I worry that we're putting the burden on them to be subtle and impactful in systems that still reward visibility.
Yeah, that's a great point. We can't wishfully think that the quiet leader will naturally rise. The reality is that, the system doesn't always reward subtlety. So, yeah, we do have a responsibility to help organizations spot and amplify this kind of leadership. But, maybe the word we're avoiding is power, because, power looks different in this context and organizations don't always know how to read it. And I think that's where Leap has really been eye opening. These women aren't just picking up leadership skills, they're showing us a completely different version of what strong leadership looks like, especially when it's rooted in values and key awareness of how systems work around them.
And let's be honest, they're navigating this with multiple layers of expectation, like with cultural responsibility on one side and professional ambition on the other. And I think they're doing so with a level of maturity that's incredibly impressive. What we're seeing is that they're navigating this with incredible nuance.
And then this reminds me of a roundtable event that we had as part of Leap. I remember where one of our participants led the conversation. She reframed the entire discussion with just a few pointed questions. She didn't dominate, she redirected. Again, are we consistently noticing and valuing that kind of leadership across the board?
Right, which is why Emirati Women's Day is such an important moment. It's not just for recognition, but also for reflection.
Right. It's a chance to pause and ask ourselves, what type of leadership are we encouraging, and are we truly making space for all of them to be seen? Because what we're seeing in programs like Leap is nothing short of exceptional.
So, in that case, how do we honor it properly?
I think it starts with telling these stories more openly, spotlighting the real everyday leadership that's shaping organizations quietly but very powerfully.
Yes, and making sure those stories don't get buried. One of the best things about Emirati Women's Day is that it gives us permission to celebrate loudly, proudly, and intentionally. We've seen so many moments in Leap where participants didn't even realize how impactful they were being until someone reflected it back to them.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest takeaways, isn't it? Recognition doesn't always mean awards or titles. Sometimes it's just being seen for the impact you're already making. And I think that's a great message for us to wrap up on today. The Emirati women are leading in boardrooms, education, creative sectors, and civic spaces. And their leadership is making a lasting difference. We see it every day in our leap cohorts that come through, their confidence, the clarity, the quiet strength, and it deserves to be celebrated, not just today, but all year round.
Exactly. So, to all the Emirati women out there, thank you. You're reshaping what leadership means, and we are so proud to be part of that journey.
And in future episodes, we'll keep exploring the real, often untold stories of leadership, what it takes to grow, adapt, and lead with purpose in today's world. So stay with us. There's more to come on leadership and learning. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you in the next one.